So, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've all been having a great 2021 so far. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking to one of India's most respected cricket writers and journalists. He has been covering sports for the Hindu and Sports Star since 1986. He has written books like The Hitman, Speed Merchant, World Cup Warriors, and Driven. I would like to introduce you to Mr. Vijay Lokapally. Namaskar, Vijay, and thank you for coming on. And how are you?
Namaskar, Deepesh. Great, very kind of you to have me to have me on this lovely platform. I'd been looking forward to it, and I hope we have a good conversation for our cricket fans.
Certainly will. I know in India it's very difficult at the moment with the whole COVID thing. So, how are you keeping, first of all? Everything okay from your side?
Absolutely, can't step out of the house. So catching up with all the old movies which I can, which I have not watched for so many years, and books which I've bought, I have not read. I can read them now, and get to spend more time with my son and my wife because all these years, Deepesh, I was away traveling with the cricketers. So for whatever reason, I'm grounded. But the thing is, the situation is alarming. I mean, I feel for all the people who have been infected and hit by this COVID. People, very close ones, have suffered losses. So it's a very difficult phase for the entire mankind.
Certainly is. Therefore, I know with the extreme difficulties in India, I do very much appreciate your time. So, thank you so much. So, I just wanted to ask you about your career. So, firstly, so obviously you being a cricket writer and journalist, could you give us a bit of an insight about how you managed to get into that field?
Well, I managed to get into the field because one, I used to play a lot of cricket. I love cricket, and then I was fascinated by somebody called Mr. Bishan Singh Bedi and Mr. Sunil Gavaskar. So when I got to watch them at the Ferozshah Kotla in action, and then of course some years later, I wrote a story on Mr. Bedi when he retired, which was liked by him, and he gave me an appreciation letter which I have still preserved, and that started the journey. And over and I mean, it was as if I was destined to become a journalist because if Mr. Bedi had not written that letter of appreciation for my article, I don't think I would have taken my writing very seriously.
Wow. And that was your first project, right, for Mr. Bishan Bedi. So,
Yes, first.
how did you manage to convince somebody like him to for somebody like yourself who's so young at the time to write his story? Because obviously he was a superstar for India.
Oh yes, I like I said, I used to read a lot, and when he retired, I felt the newspapers, the articles written on him after his retirement, they did not probably do justice. That's what I felt, and so I wrote a letter. I just shot off a letter, a long letter, to one of the newspapers. In fact, two newspapers. So one newspaper used it as a letter to the editor, and the other newspaper, Patriot, they published it as an article because the sports editor liked it a lot. And so that, I think, was the turning point of my life. He gave me the break, and I'm eternally grateful to him. And of course, Mr. Bedi. I mean, how many players, Dipesh, would you know that who would write such a letter just because somebody has, done a good job? So I thought I had worked hard on that letter which I wrote. So probably, like I said, I was destined to come into journalism because Mr. Bedi retired, and I decided to write that letter.
You're very correct there because you wouldn't get men, not just cricketers, you wouldn't get just normal employers or employees making those sort of recommendations. So the fact that he was willing to do that is really nice because I know he's quite candid as an individual. He speaks his mind. He's not very shy to share his opinion. So no, I'm actually really glad that he did that for you. But would you say, do you know when you first started in journalism, was it a lot easier or a lot harder than what it is now? Because nowadays, there's so many platforms that is really competitive, so many different ways of getting into journalism. It could almost be confusing. So what's your opinion on that?
I'm very happy, Dipesh, you've asked me this because people go around of my age telling people, young people, that they had to work very hard. Yes, we had to work very hard, but our competition was not as severe, as stiff as it is today. When I remember going to a press conference, there would be hardly six people. or going to a match, there would be hardly four journalists sitting in the press box. But today, if you see for a press conference, there are 100 reporters. In the press box, there are 200 reporters. So imagine the level of competition. So which means you have to be at your best all the time, which was not the case when I was growing up. I could, and there was no internet. Fine. So communication was an issue, but there was no television to tell the world that what I have written is also could be wrong, because I was supposed to be the eyes for the reader, right? So whatever I wrote was would be taken as gospel because they have not been watching and I have been there. So that was a huge advantage. There was very little scrutiny. Also, the fact is that we were growing up in a very healthy competition, because still have friends from the same era when I began. We are very close friends. We laugh at the mistakes we made then, and but the fact is that the competition was much less deepish, and so because of that, there was a lot of camaraderie, which probably is missing today, and I don't blame them, because they're all involved in a rat race. Everybody wants to be different, but I would like to use your platform to tell the young reporters that they are better than us, for the simple reason that if for a 24-year-old today to do so many stories, despite the fact that there are challenges coming from television, which it only means that he is better than me, because I never faced that challenge.
Interesting, because over in I'm sure you've noticed not just television but also newspapers. I've noticed a big change in cricket journalism over the last 20 years, I would say. Because before that, I'm talking in England at the moment. So before you'd get a lot of journalists or even commentators of cricket who weren't ex-cricketers, brilliant minds, very well spoken, very good writers. One recently being Henry Blofeld. I thought he was outstanding. He's just recently retired. I've noticed now that there's a big thing where there's so much more of a demand for ex-players to come. I don't know if it's just for television or if it's also for newspapers, because over here you have people like Michael Atherton and Nasser Hussain who have their columns with big newspapers. And I don't know if do you know somebody who hasn't played professional or international cricket, if there is an opportunity for them now to be part of the media or newspaper. Like even in India, you've got someone like Akash Chopra, who he played a few Test matches for India, and then out of nowhere, like see him on television. Now he's a big journalist in India, isn't he? For everything, IPL, international cricket. Mm. So, what's your opinion on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, he's just a part of it. I mean, if you look at Mr. Bedi in his times, he was a fantastic critic, and he always wrote his own article. Nobody had to ghost his article. And the greatest is Mr. Sunil Gavaskar. I mean, you look at his career. He played cricket, stopped playing cricket, and then he became the best media man. I always I marvel at his energy to write, to broadcast, and I always ask him, sir, where do you get this energy from to write every day? So if you look at it, he would have probably written more words than I have on cricket, because he played the game, so he has a very different perspective, and he is an expert. His views matter. So my job as a journalist would be to report the game, but his job is to comment on the game, because his expertise, the vision he has about the game. So there are others who are doing a good job. You see the young Murli Karthik.
Mm.
He has done a fabulous job as a commentator. You have VVS Lakshmani, who has taken so beautifully to do the media work. Anil Kumble did it earlier, off and on, because now he's involved as a coach. So I love Kumble's opinions. Virendra Sehwag is very, very on the job, in the sense he will not hold his words back. If he feels somebody has to be slammed, he will slam. So that's why I love listening to Sehwag also. So they are all in their own right experts. They are making a living out of it after having played the game. And I welcome their presence in the press box also, because when you interact with them, Deepesh, you learn a lot.
Mhm.
You get the player's perspective. Mine would be a journalist perspective. So They are welcome and they've enriched the game with their views.
Very well put. Very well put. So yeah, there is definitely a balance there for journalists and ex-players. So you get, yeah, well-rounded opinion. So no, I appreciate that for sure. But just moving forward, most recently, India played Australia in Australia. So what did you make of that series, firstly?
Fascinating in the sense, if you look at it, after being all out for 36, to have come back from that ignominy, and to me, I think I would give a large part of the credit to Ajinkya Rahane. His 100 and Melbourne saved you the game. Otherwise, you would have been 2-0 down, and the series would have taken a different course. But it also speaks of the spirit and character of the youngsters who have come. You know, they believe in themselves. They are not going to be overawed by the opposition, overawed by the fact that they're playing away from home, they have been playing in a bio bubble, there are mental health issues. There are also, they have not been training physically well because they have not been playing. There is one thing to play and there is another thing to work in the gym. There is a difference. So hats off to these young people, especially the innings that Rishabh Pant played, Washington Sundar, and Shardul Thakur for that matter. He emerged as a lovely bowler, and then Natarajan having grabbed the opportunity. So these are all players for the future, and they are also, you see, Dipesh, I don't know if you would agree, they have left a huge mark by being very different from their predecessors who would take long time to settle down, but now they have learned to win and learn to win away from home. So for me, the fact that they won away from home was the main character of that win. And the series win, I would describe in one word: epic.
Because there's definitely been a culture change over the last 10, 15 years. And I would like to say it's probably been more since Dhoni took over as captain. He did an outstanding job, basically won everything there is. And then Kohli has taken it to another level. Probably not as being as successful with their trophies, but you know, philosophy, notice that the Indian players are a lot fitter, a lot more aggressive, brilliant fielders, majority of them now. And I've noticed that it's almost the they've got this. I use this as say this as a compliment, ruthlessness in a good way, not in a bad way, and it's something that something Australia have possessed for a very long time. And I know there's been some criticism of Virat Kohli and his passion of the game. Sometimes you could. Personally, I have nothing against that. I don't know what you think. At the end of the day, if you believe in something and you're a bit emotional about it, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't share it. At the end of the day, it's a passionate game. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree with you, Dipesh. His aggression is, sometimes people feel that he is crossing the line, but not. I mean, I don't think he's very involved with the game. He wants to win. He wants to win more than any other cricketer. But that should not mean that we didn't have aggressive cricketers in the past. I mean, you look at Mr. Gavaskar. His aggression was scoring more runs. Or you look at Mr. Kapil Dev. He would he also played very aggressively. How? By taking wickets. He would get angry and take wickets. He would get angry, make runs instead of indulging in, a war of words with the opponent, or show of what should I say, expression. They were not as expressive as today's players, who also know how to react to the camera. And Deepesh, I don't know if you know this, they are very well, versed with this. The fact that if you're fielding a short leg, from which angle would the camera catch you, or if you are standing in the slips, from which position camera is going to catch you. So they are very good at it. It is not that they're looking at the camera, but they know for sure if they have taken a catch, they know there'll be four cameras on them, so they have to react to it. So, and Kohli, of course, it seems as if all the cameras are on him because he's always in the frame. He's under constant scrutiny, and it is very difficult to be an Indian captain, I know, and it's very difficult to be Virat Kohli because the high expectations people have of him.
Yes, and I think he's done a fantastic job being a role model. He's not really He's not. There's been no like adversity from him or anything. And I'll be honest, I didn't know about that. I didn't know that they'd be so conscious about it. But I'm assuming it's great for public relations, I guess. Obviously, being aware of these things, knowing that your pictures will be on the newspapers or on the news. And I know they've done this in England now, but in India, but I've been in India many times, and in India they have dedicated channels to cricket, which is brilliant. Therefore, hence why the demand is huge. Over here, they do have that now. They have one or two channels that are dedicated to cricket. I wish there was more, but is definitely the demand for cricket is increasing in England, especially since England have won the game, won the World Cup. Sorry, a couple of years ago. But I think with India, with with the development of the IPL over the last 12, 13 years and the money that's there, the talent in abundance, do you think there's any excuse for them not to win this T20 World Cup coming up at the end of the year?
They will be under tremendous pressure for the simple reason that it is widely accepted this is probably the best combination they will be playing, whether they, whatever 15 they pick and the playing 11 which goes on to take on the opposition on the field, it will be the best 11 for a long, long time because these are players well trained in this format of the game. They played so much and preparation. I mean, you look at it. The series win against England. It may not be a T20, but the IPL is going to prepare them to the playing conditions, to the opposition, and the fact that they have such confidence that has come from the fact that Virat Kohli is their leader. They have performers. There's somebody like Hardik Pandya, amazingly explosive player who can win the game on his own. You have Rishabh Pant, who has emerged as probably the best wicketkeeper batsman in the world, other than maybe Quinton de Kock. Yeah, he's quite similar to Adam Gilchrist, but yes, still a long way to go. I wouldn't like to compare. And then you have young talent coming up. I mean, you have Padikkal. If he gets an opportunity, you never know. He is awesome stroke play. He has the wide range of shots. And you look at KL Rahul, you look at Mayank Agarwal. So these are, and Shikhar Dhawan is there waiting for an opportunity. If he gets a chance, he would love to play in the World Cup. But this probably, Deepesh, is the best combination one can think of, and there will be no excuse for them to not win the World Cup at home.
Yes, you speak of Padikkal, and I know Prithvi Shaw, they've had an amazing Vijay Hazare season, haven't they? I think they're averaging the 100 plus, don't they, in like 7 or 8 games. So again, there's so many options out there. But with Kohli opening the batting at the moment for Bangalore, and he did mention that obviously this is an experiment that he's giving a try, and it's gone okay. Nothing. He hasn't. I think he scored 150. But for the World Cup, what would you do? So if you were a selector right now, and obviously all the players that are fit, who would your batting lineup? Let's start with the batting lineup. Who would you like to see in the top 7 batting, and then we'll go to the bowlers afterwards.
You look at, you have Virat Kohli there.
Mm-hmm.
You will have KL Rahul.
Mm-hmm.
You will have Mayank Agarwal. You will have Rishabh Pant, Padikkal. I would love to pick Padikkal, yes.
Yeah.
And Hardik Pandya, he has to be there, obviously. And you have, I think we have got 7 names. This would be my 7 because probably this would be the best 7 in the world if you look at it. If you compare with the other teams, there won't be any respite for the opposition. So, and of course, India also has a fabulous bowling lineup. But I have not forgotten Jadeja. I mean, Ravindra Jadeja has to be there. I mean, he's a genuine all-rounder. Like Pandya would like to see him bowl, but even if he doesn't bowl, his presence in the team as a batsman is enough to kind of make the opposition uncomfortable.
See, with Jadeja's almost renaissance with the bat over the last year or two, it's been amazing, right? And see, I think he could probably get away with batting at number 6. There's, where teams now have 6 bowlers, don't they, in the T20? And see, this is the problem I think India have had over the last couple of years, with Pandya being injured, so he's not being able to fulfill that fifth bowler spot properly. So obviously, if he, is trying to fit both of them in, which they should and they will. But it's the bowlers that I'm interested in because I've been watching the IPL, and I've been very impressed with Mohammad Siraj. Don't think he's taken as much wickets as like Harshal Patel and whoever else there is, but his Yorkers are beautiful, beautiful line and length. Honestly, he's such a good, well-rounded bowler. I don't know what your opinion is of him. What do you think?
You are absolutely right. I'll second your opinion because if you look at Mohammad Siraj, you look at Bumrah, right? And then you have Bhuvaneshwar. So
Hmm.
these three can put a stop to any aggressive batting lineup.
Hmm.
And then I have a lot of time, Deepesh, for Rahul Chahar. I mean, he's emerged as a very good leg spinner, and he could be a good option to have in the World Cup. I mean, they're looking at it, they're preparing him also. They're constantly in touch with him so that he improves his temperament to bowl in tight situations. So I have loved the way Rahul Chahar has come up, and of course Deepak Chahar, who has improved amazingly in the last 2 years, and he has emerged as a wicket taker. I mean, he looks to take wickets, so they can have a look at him. And of course, Shardul Thakur is there. They are looking at Rahul Thakur also, but then it depends on what kind of combination the captain has in mind and the selectors, because still the World Cup is a good 6 months away.
Yes. Because then you've got the spinners. You talk about Rahul Chahar, and then you've got. I'm a big fan of Chahal. I think he's a beautiful white ball spinner. You've got Washington Sundar, but they seem to be using him more as a top six batsman and a kind of a part-timeish bowler. Then you've got. I wonder what's happened to what's his name again? The left-arm Chinaman spinner, Yadav
Kuldeep
Kuldeep.
Yadav.
Yeah, he seems to be off form at the moment, doesn't he? He's such a lovely bowler, and then don't know what happened.
It's a mystery, Dipesh. I mean, how has he not played a game for so long? I mean, he's always warming the benches, which is very unfair because he's a very different bowler, a very kind of a magical bowler, if you ask me, because it's very difficult to pick him, and they've not been fair to him, and he's short of confidence. And I feel very, very sorry for Kuldeep Yadav because he was looked at as a very impactful bowler by Anil Kumble, and that is why he made his debut against Australia at Dharamshala when Kumble was the coach, because Kumble thought this man has a wonderful future, but we seem to have lost him. I don't know if one should blame the team management, we should blame the selectors, because selectors you can't actually, because selectors pick him, but the team management doesn't play him. So where does he go? So he now goes back to play domestic cricket after the IPL, and that's the only platform left for him, which I think is sad because the cricket fans have been denied a wonderful, wonderful bowler in Kuldeep Yadav.
This has happened, historically over the last 15 years. I'd say this has been quite frequent with Indian cricket. Because I don't know if you remember Pragyan Oja. He was a lovely left-arm spinner. I think he took 100 wickets in like 20 odd games, done so well, and then I never saw him again. And he retired when he was in his early 30s.
Absolutely. I mean, they held what was held against him was his bowling action. I mean, which was very strange. I mean, he could have worked on it, and in any case, he had not been called by an umpire. So it's not fair to say that he had a suspect bowling action because he played that last Test match at the Wankhede Stadium,
Hmm.
uh, and did excellent. I mean, he did a superb job with his left arm spin. But yes, I mean, there are players we have lost, not like Oja. Pragyan Oja is there, Kuldeep Yadav is there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what reasons can we attribute to their not being able to play as much as they should have?
Hmm. Yeah, so obviously with all this talent in abundance, Ravi Shastri and the management team will have a lot of challenges, positive challenges to see, who can will be into that best 11. But then obviously we've got the 5 Test match series against England in England. which is going to be very challenging. And I'm sure they're going to want some sort of redemption due to the pitch scandals that we had in India, about the spinning wickets. So it'll be interesting to see if England, what sort of pitches they have on offer, whether it'll be green wickets or drier wickets or whoever. But how do you think India will fare in England in those conditions where it's swinging? And usually they've known to struggle for the last 12, 15 years.
Yeah, it's a fact that they do struggle against the ball which seams and swings. But I have a feeling that this team is well prepared. They have the batsmen who can counter swing and seam, especially Pujara, who should be who will be there, and then of course Hanuma Bihari, who is playing county cricket. How much he gains from it, time will tell. But we have the bowlers. Essentially, my faith in why I'm placing my faith in India doing well is the bowlers are going to trouble England a lot. They have the right bowlers to exploit the conditions, and we have the Indian team has batsmen. I mean, Virat has scored runs in England. Pujara has. Rahane, if he gets going there, depends whether he'll find a place. But Hanuma Vihari is there. Rishabh Pant is a batsman who can play in all conditions. KL Rahul, selectors expect a big contribution from him in England. So I feel India will do definitely well, and I would go to the extent that India will start as favorite to win the series.
I agree. I fully agree, because you're talking about the bowlers, and I think that's one thing that kind of goes under the radar is India's bowling lineup. Because for me, I know they've got Kohli and Sharma, but I would say India's bowlers have kept that team really, like, because I've noticed with India sometimes they lose one or two. Once they've lost one wicket, they lose four or three in what straight away. They'll be skittled out. Whereas with the Indian bowling lineup with Ishant Sharma, Shami, Bumrah, they've been so reliable everywhere. And I think that's something growing up as an India fan over the last 30 odd years. I remember when I first started watching cricket, and obviously that wasn't one of India's strengths, was it? It was just Kumble, Harbhajan Singh, and But it's nice to see that we've got the options in abundance. But would you say the three fast bowlers, long as they're fit, would be Ishant, Shami, and Bumrah, who'd start in the India's tour to England?
You're right. These are the three which Virat will depend on, and then don't forget you have Natarajan and Siraj. I mean, they possibly would. I think we should be right, Dipesh, when you say that this is the best five you can imagine, and they can do so much with the ball. They can like somebody like Ishan. He is good. He can work up good speed. Shami is a fast bowler and a very aggressive bowler and a tireless bowler. So you have the best of combination in these five, and the best three, like you said, yes. I would play Bumrah, I would play Ishan, and I would play Shami because they make a fantastic trio.
Yes, and they had a great tour the last time they came as well, which was really good. So hopefully they do well. So, with India, they haven't won a trophy since the ICC World Championship. I think that was under Duncan Fletcher. I think that was in 2013. So why do you think they haven't won any of the ICC tournaments since then? So that's the World Cups, ICC tournaments.
Yeah. I know it does surprise the common cricket fan that such a fabulous team with such wealth of talent is not able to put it across when it comes to a knockout game, because there is something missing. Could it be that some of the players are they feel that psychologically they have this deficiency, I would say, a drawback when it comes to taking on the pressure when they know that it's a do or die game, because the same team they would take on in the league stage and thrash them, but when they meet the same team in a knockout situation, they kind of play below their potential, and it comes from the fact that it has a lot to do with how you are prepared mentally to take the pressure. So some of them, yes, do fall in that category where they're not able to give their best in a in a knockout situation. But now I think this is one aspect which is being taken care of by the BCCI. They are given lessons in there are a lot of conversations on how to become mentally strong, how to take up these challenges. See, a challenge in a league game, Deepesh, we all know is very different from what you have in a knockout situation where you cannot afford to make a mistake. You cannot, there is no comeback. So that is one thing they will have to realize that they are in a situation where there is no comeback if you make a mistake. And I think it has been drilled well into them. And they are, as of now, I can tell you, they are very well prepared to win the World Cup because they are preparing to win the World Cup. So that is what is important. They're preparing to win it. So it is not that they will participate because it is being held in India. They are ready for it.
Yes. Because the reason I asked that question is because we have a similar issue in football in England. So, India are basically the economic superpower in cricket, and it's the same in football with England. England are the superpower of economic superpower of football. I think it's obviously England have the talent, they have the best league, best everything, you name it, but they haven't won anything since 1966. And with India, obviously, I know they won the World Cup in 2011, and then in 2013 they won the ICC Champions Trophy. But I think the expectations are so high, and obviously with the India fans as well. I've heard of fans in India going to all sorts of extremes when when a player's not doing well or India have lost. Because I remember the 2007 World Cup when India lost to Bangladesh, and there was a lot of issues then, I recall. So I do sympathize. I can only imagine what the players are going through when playing these tournaments. Obviously, they have all the all the rewards, but the pressure must be mad. And on top of that, playing knockout tournaments as well. So I'm certainly not envious of the India team management or the psychology department if they have one, dealing with these things.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. It is huge. But so is there? You talked about Padikal, but is there any players within the next 12 months that, as fans, we're not aware of, that you think will make a massive impact for India? So not any of the established stars, but any like up and coming stars that you think will have a significant part to play for India.
See, I think Padikal is definitely there. Rishabh Pant is there. Prithvi Shaw is there. And then you have uh, uh, in bowling, of course, you have discovered Siraj will be there. There are the young lot will have to be tested because they haven't yet played much of international cricket. So we don't know how they will perform, how they will take the next step. But efforts are on. The domestic structure is so good that they will keep discovering good players in time to come. But I'm looking forward to some fabulous cricket from Padikal, KL Rahul, like I said, Pant, of course. These are the ones I'm very excited about. And Washington Sundar, I mean, he's also come up as a good talent, so he'll be there around for a while. We have mentioned Rahul Chahar, he'll be there for a while. And I'm very disappointed with one player who should have been playing regularly. That is Jayant Yadav. A good batting, a good all-rounder. I mean, he bowls very good off spin. He can bat well. He's a very, very good fielder also. So I would have loved seeing Jayant play more international cricket than he has so far. But maybe in times to come, he'll get an opportunity. So I think these are the names which I'm looking forward to in the times to come.
I remember Giant's debut series. He scored, I believe, did he score like 100? And he got a few. Was it against England a few years ago, wasn't it? Yeah, and then again, he's another talent. He's done so beautifully, and they never heard of him again until the IPL, like today. But
yeah. He went out because of an injury.
Right. So, okay. And then he hasn't managed to get back into the team ever since. Right. Okay, that's good to know. So they're stars for sure. We'll all definitely be keeping up with. But like you talked about, the structure of Indian cricket is outstanding because you've got Rahul Dravid coaching the India A under 19.
Yeah.
And I was actually having this discussion with my friends a couple of days ago because we're talking about when the time comes where Ravi Shastri finishes with India, whenever that is, if Rahul Dravid would want the job. Because sometimes, like, I know he's a big name, lovely man, great coach, but some people are just good and great at dealing with youngsters and being like, providing, coaching them at the start of their career and then and providing the platform to make that transition. Do you think Rahul Dravid is the man to take over Ravi Shastri whenever he leaves, or do you reckon it's somebody else?
I don't know if Rahul Dravid would be very keen because one, he doesn't like to travel much, and the fact is that he has two sons growing up, so he would like to give more time to them because as it is, initial years they would have missed him when he was traveling the world playing cricket, and then of course this suits him. He lives in Bangalore. The National Cricket Academy is in Bangalore, so he doesn't have to travel much. He can just drive down to office, and he loves working with the youngsters. That is one thing he has always wanted to do, and he's done a wonderful job. I mean, if you look at all these youngsters, at some point they have picked up one lesson from Dravid, which has helped them grow and become a good overall cricketer. So I would love Dravid to be in charge of the academy where he's producing decent cricketers, because they look at him as a role model. If you see his behavior on the field and off the field was exemplary, so a role model for many. And the main thing is Deepesh is able to convey his point. He's very so articulate. I would love to see him in a job where he is grooming talent than spending time with people who are already established.
Mhm.
And I don't know if he would be comfortable traveling. Otherwise, you can always have him as India coach. There is no doubt. But personally, I think he is doing a wonderful job at the NCA. So I would love to see Dravid concentrating on NCA.
So, as Ravi Shastri's successor, who would you like to see? So, if it's not Dravid, so like obviously you've got people in the IPL like Stephen Fleming, for example, who've been successful. We've got Jay Wardiner, who's been successful with Mumbai Indians. Would you go down the foreign route, or would you want somebody like an Indian coach? What do you think?
I think I would give a try. I mean, let us try an Indian coach for a change. I mean, we have had so many foreign coaches, and I can understand Deepesh. Don't get me wrong. You want a foreign coach for a hockey team, I can understand because India is not doing well in hockey. So a foreign coach will come and make a difference, or maybe football, where we don't have good homegrown coaches. But here you are the superpower in cricket in
Hmm.
terms of
Hmm.
not just in financial
Hmm.
superpower, but you
Hmm.
are doing well on the field. You're winning series. You're good at home, good overseas. So why not give an Indian a chance? I mean, there
Hmm.
are quite a few. If you ask me, uh, W.V. Raman is a very good cricket mind. I would love to see him in that role because he's very calm
Hmm.
and his reading of the game is amazing. Uh, Plus the fact that he's able to understand the good and bad in a cricketer in a very good time because he's good in his analysis in his reading of not just of the game, the individual. So I would love to see someone like Vurkeri Raman taking over the job once Ravi Shastri goes.
That's a name I'm definitely going to look into. That's why I wanted to ask you that question. Because yeah, there's high profile names that manage in the IPL and ex players and so on. But obviously, getting an insight of people like this from you, this is why obviously we want to speak to people like yourself to get these sort of insights. So it's excellent. So I wanted to ask you, go back to yourself now. There's a few personal questions actually. So do you know you've been covering cricket for the last 3 decades, or probably a little bit longer, right? And What would you say has been the changes over the last 3 decades as a journalist following India?
Well, for me, the best thing of my learning process was going to cover domestic cricket,
Mhm.
which is missing today. Youngsters are not able to watch domestic cricket. And the fact is that even the local cricket, I used to go and watch local cricket. So I don't blame them because there is so much happening. They won't get time to go and watch local cricket games or even domestic cricket. The newspapers are not very keen that they now travel and watch, because domestic cricket debates is where I would come across a youngster.
Mhm.
I would know, okay, this is the boy who needs to be watched. And the game itself has changed. You are getting players from remote corners of the country who look at the game as, uh, I would say, a security, a financial security for life. If you do well in cricket, you are secured. You are at least you are ensured that you can run your kitchen comfortably. Plus, there are so many jobs which come through cricket. If you're not playing, you can be coaching, you can be a good cricket analyst, you can be an umpire, you can be a scorer. So they're all well-paying jobs. It keeps you connected with the game all the time. And but the biggest change which I have noticed is that today's youngster is far more confident than what a youngster would have been 20 years ago when he was in this first season of cricket. You see how they approach. They are backing themselves, and which is a cliched experience, yes, backing themselves. But then you have to back yourself when you are in such a competitive zone as cricket. So to me, the biggest impact is that they are very confident. They play to win. They are not afraid of losing. That loss of the fear of losing is gone. So that is a big difference.
Yes. So, did you cover the World Cup win in 1983? Did you have any sort of involvement in the writing or journalism during then, or did?
I was doing journalism. I was working for a newspaper called The Patriot. That's which the newspaper which published my article on Mr. Special Singh Bedi in
Mhm.
1983. Yes, I was a journalist. In fact, on the night of the final, I was in charge of making the page. So I was so excited that India was winning, and I would rush to the TV room, watch the game, come back and do my work. So it was an eventful day for me in my career, because I managed to produce a good page that day, of course with one of my seniors. He was there to assist me. So 83 I followed very keenly, because R Mohan was one journalist who I have always admired, and he was covering the tournament for the Hindu, one of the very few who were at the game. And then I have a friend who's an iconic Marathi journalist called Dwarkanath Sansgiri. He was reporting World Cup for Marathi papers, so I was reading him, and it was a good way to be introduced to the game. That 2 years into the profession, India won the World Cup, and cricket suddenly became a huge sport in India. So that's how it was.
Excellent. So, just before we conclude, I've got a few quick fire questions I'd like to ask you. So, when you were growing up, who was your cricketing hero?
My hero was always Sunil Gavaskar, because 71. And it was an age where you form an impression, and the 774 runs he scored in the West Indies left a huge impact. And then, of course, Mr. Kapil Dev and Mr. Bailey.
So, which Indian World Cup win was more satisfying, the 1983 one or the 2011 one?
1983, because we were ranked outsiders, nobody gave us a chance, and then beating that West Indies team. You just look at the lineup, the West Indies 83 final lineup. My God, can you ever imagine any team beating them and India beating them?
Excellent. So, who would you say is India's greatest ever captain?
Obviously, you'll have to pick MS Dhoni, because he led them to a triumph in Test matches, and the World Cup. But yes, the trend was set by Kapil Dev in 1983. But Dhoni should go down, even though earlier I've always said that the captain India wanted always an ideal captain was Mr. Mansoor Ali Khan Pataudi, because he led the team brilliantly, and he taught them how to win, and he taught them the Indianness. He brought Indianness in the dressing room. So he had a huge impact, and people who have played with him, the players, they still consider him to be the greatest captain India has produced. I would go by that. Yes, but if you see in modern times, you will have to also accept that Dhoni brought a lot of difference to Indian cricket, and the way he won the World Cup. He was not the only one, but he did lead the team very well. So that had a huge impact. And even otherwise, he has emerged as a good leader. So I would put Dhoni there, even though if you ask me honestly, I would have Pataudi as my greatest captain.
So this is not just narrowing it down to Indian cricketers. Who's the greatest cricketer you've ever seen?
The greatest cricketer I have seen,
Yes, from any
Mr.
generation, any team.
Mr. Kapil Dev. I mean, people will tell you about Lara. They'll talk about who else? I mean, there have been so many great cricketers.
Hmm.
There, Mr. Gavaskar, and if you look at Mr. Gundappa Vishwanath, he was again great, another great cricketer. Sachin Tendulkar, oh my God! I mean, how can I not pick Sachin Tendulkar? But to me, the greatest will always be Kapil Dev, because he batted, he bowled, he led, and he made the biggest difference to the game by winning the World Cup on his own. Because that 175 not out was the day it made the biggest impact on Indian cricket. And to me, Kapil Dev will always be the greatest I have watched.
Excellent. So, would you say you prefer T20s, tests, or ODIs? Which format?
Test, test, always, because I'm from an old school of journalism and cricket, and Test cricket is something very intriguing, very interesting, and we saw that in Australia. Deepesh, you are so young to me, but you would have loved that Test cricket, even though this generation loves to watch T20 more because it is result oriented. But the Test series in Australia sort of confirmed it is the cricket.
I agree. I'm fully test match, by the way. The others are subservient to test cricket. But yeah. So who do you say is a better batsman, Gavaskar, Tendulkar, or Kohli?
Gavaskar.
Why?
Gavaskar. He was a complete batsman. Look at the bowlers he faced, the kind of pitches he batted on, and also the fact that he batted without helmet. I mean, there were no helmets. He had no choice. Once he was hit on the head once, on the forehead, yes, by Marshall. But look at him, how he would leave the ball. You look at his overall approach to batting and how he carried the team on his shoulders alone, just like Tendulkar does. I mean, Tendulkar, I have highest regard. He's a very dear friend, but even he would agree with me that if he sits down and analyzes, even Gavaskar is his hero. So for me, that he will remain the best, Mr. Sunil Gavaskar.
Very kind of answered this question, but I was going to ask because you are fortunate enough to see all those all-rounders in the 70s and 80s. So I know you hold Kapil Dev in very high regard. So let's say he's your number one, because from what you previously stated. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, okay, I'm going to exclude Kapil Dev from this, but who do you say is a better all-rounder? Imran Khan, Botham, Richard Hadley, or Jacques Kallis?
Among these four, Richard Hadley.
Yeah.
I would say Richard Hadley.
Why would you
Richard
say
Hadley
that?
because one man army. I mean, he had no support from the other end. And you look at how he set up the batsman. Amazing bowler. I mean, all those who have faced him, they found it very difficult to read him. Of course, Botham was there, and Imran Khan was quick.
Mhm.
Callis, of course, is they call him the modern day Gary Sobers. Because
Mhm.
Richard Hadley was perfection in whatever he did. He batted also, and he was a very decent fielder. But what a bowling action! I mean, if you have to pick
Mhm.
one bowling action, it has to be Richard Hadley. Flawless,
Mhm.
flawless, and his bowling skills were amazing. I mean, batsmen found him very difficult to play.
Yes. Seen a few highlights of Richard Hadley, and him and Dennis Lee definitely have probably the most complete actions one would probably ever see.
Yes.
So, who do you follow in IPL? Who's your favorite team in IPL cricket?
There's never been any debate to tell you the truth, but I live in Delhi.
Hmm.
So last year also I backed Delhi to win, and this year also again I'm backing Delhi Capitals to win because it is a complete combination. It has the right combination to win the tournament with a young captain like Rishabh Pant making a lot of difference the way the team is approaching the games. So, but yes, Chennai Super Kings is the evergreen favorite of all. Again, because of the way Dhoni has led the squad, and then of course Mumbai Indians. They have the most successful team in the IPL. But I've always wanted Delhi Capitals to do well or Delhi to do well because for the simple reason that I live in Delhi, so I'm a fan of Delhi.
Right. I'm hoping that Gujarat have a team next year. They did mention that, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gujarati.
Yes.
So I'm hoping. I follow
Yes.
Rajasthan Royals, but I'm hoping to have Gujarat there soon, so I can actually have a team that I follow. And my final
Correct.
question to you, Vijay, is who is your favorite cricket commentator of all time?
Of all time will be Rishi Beno
Mm.
because when he spoke,
Hmm.
you learned so many different aspects of the game. He explained it so beautifully. And in my initial years, I was fascinated by Alan McGilvray,
Hmm.
and among the Indians, Anant Setalvad, a terrific. I mean, what voice he had, and the way he would describe the game, you didn't have to watch it. He would create the game for you through his radio commentary. So these three, Richie Beno, Ellen McGilvray, and Anand Setalvad.
Excellent. Well, Vijay, I appreciate your time very, very much. Thank you so much. And it was so insightful getting an insight of Indian cricket and your career as well. So thank you very much. And I'm sure everyone else has very much appreciated it as well. And I hope you and your family keep very safe and well. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Deepesh. I'm very thankful to you for having me on your show. And I mean, we had been planning it long, so it finally happened. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Vijay. Thanks. Excellent.